morning, folks. Welcome to the OpUtils free training today. So let's get started with our agenda of the day. So we'll be beginning our training today with an introduction to OpUtils. So we'll be basically seeing what OpUtils is, why you need OpUtils, and what are the prerequisites if you want to deploy OpUtils in your network. And then we'll be seeing in detail the various modules in OpUtils, such as the IP address manager, switch port mapper, rogue device detector, networking tools, and the OpUtils toolset. And once we've covered these modules, discussed what you can do with them, and go and check out in our console how it can be used in your network, we'll be discussing the capabilities that OpUtils offers, which includes scheduling, notification, and the network reports that are available. So let's move on to our introduction to OpUtils. So what is OpUtils and why do you need OpUtils? Most of you would have adopted advanced concepts like buyout policies or cloud computing, virtual machines. And to make sure this network, this complex infrastructure performs and is constantly available, we need to make sure that we monitor the most basic underlying components of your network. So this includes resources like IP addresses, switch ports, routers, and DHCP servers. Because when we monitor these network resources effectively and have a constant eye on them so that we do not run into issues like IP address conflicts, it helps us to effectively manage our higher level network components. So to get our networks up and running without any issues, it is important that we monitor these components first. But how do we monitor them? Most of us might have been relying on conventional tools like spreadsheets and native OS commands. A ping can get you results about an IP at a time. A trace route might help you to get details about the network routes and your devices, how they're connected. But imagine doing this for every other IP address and every other network device manually every time you want to know their details. Well, that makes it a pretty tedious task. So that is why we bring to you OpUtils, which is a comprehensive IP address and switch port management software that is geared toward helping you effectively scan, monitor, track, and diagnose if any network issues arise with your networking resources. So it also has a rogue device detection module, which helps you secure your network from any unauthorized access. So it helps you identify any new device connecting to your network, helps you authenticate the device, and helps you secure your device in case there are any rogues that are accessing your network. We also have the product's 30 plus networking tools. So other than just monitoring your IP addresses, switch ports, routers, DHCP servers, and rogues, OpUtils also helps you carry out your day-to-day networking tasks, such as finding using a MIB browser, carrying out basic SNMP operations, checking a bandwidth usage, monitoring the availability of critical devices, backing up Cisco configuration files, and more. So you can do that with the 30 plus networking tools that are available with OpUtils. So if you want to start using OpUtils in your network, what are the prerequisites? Well, OpUtils can run both on your physical or virtual server. OpUtils comes built in with PostgreSQL, but you can also use Microsoft SQL. It has a 40 GB hard disk and it requires an 8 GB RAM. So as of now, OpUtils is supported in both Windows and Linux OS platforms. So if you want to know more in detail about the various hardware and software requirements, please check out the link that is given at the bottom of this presentation. So with that, we'll be moving on to the IP address manager. So this will be the first module we'll be looking today. So what is an IP address manager? How does it help you? Well, the IP address manager automates various monotonous tasks that you might be doing in your network for these many days. For example, if you're using a spreadsheet, you might be updating the status of your IP manually. You might be reserving IPs manually. You might be, looking for tools that help you to stay ahead of IP conflicts. So all these hassles and hurdles that when it comes to monitoring your IP address space can be eliminated by using OpUtils IP address manager. So OpUtils IP address manager helps you to scan your IP address spaces in real time, track their resource usage. It also helps you to stay ahead of network issues by alerting you in case there is any issue that occurs with your IP address space. And it also gives you a centralized view into all your network subnets or supernets with ease. So to start using IP address manager, how do you discover your devices? Your IP addresses? Well, we can start with an individual subnet scan or through a CSV file import or with a DHCP scan. So once you've discovered your IP addresses, OpUtils allows you to run and scan and monitor your IP addresses and their status in real time. So it gives you ability to monitor 3 different status of your IP addresses. It is that if your IP is available, meaning that it is not being used by any other MAC at this given time. If your IP is used, meaning that your IP is currently being used by a device and you cannot allocate this IP to any other device. And if your IP is transient, so this means that your IP is in a buffer period, it has been used until recently, so you can choose to allocate it to a different device or reallocate it to the device that has already been using that IP. And IP address manager also allows you to track connected device details, view the DNS and MAC details, create your own group or tree view, maintain history of IP addresses, and it also helps you to trigger manual and periodic scans. So how does it work? So let me take you to the console and let's see how the IP address manager looks and feels. So we are right now in my OpUtils deployment. So under IP address manager module, you can see that I have discovered a number of subnets. I have added a number of IP addresses that I need to manage. So if you want to add them, you can do them in 3 simple steps like we discussed before. You can add them via a subnet. And if you're using a spreadsheet to manage IPs or you're using another solution to manage IPs and you want to shift to OpUtils, well, the bulk import option that we have, which allows you to import subnets from CSV file, can come in very handy because it allows you to discover our IPs within seconds. And then we have IP discovery via DHCP scans. So once you've discovered, you're all set to monitor. Now, how do you navigate through the IP address manager console? Well, we have 2 options. One is the tree view and donut view. If you want to navigate and manage your IPs based on the different groupings in your network, you can do that with the tree view. As you can see, I have different groups here. I have my subnets that I have grouped together. So under my default group, I have a number of subnets that I monitor, and I have also created several groups for the different teams in my network. So I have put in their subnets in these groups. If you want to do that, you can do that as well. You can create as many groups as you want with as many subnets that you want. OpUtils also allows you to monitor supernets. So if you are using supernets in your network, you can easily create and edit the supernets in your network with OpUtils IP address manager. So as of now, I'm not using any supernet, so I do not have them here in my console, but you can very well do that. Now that we have seen how we can navigate through our subnets, how do we navigate with the networking aspects? So the another option is the donut view. So with the donut view, if you want to identify or filter out IPs based on their networking aspects, such as their DNS status, their Active Directory, their network interface card type, their OS type, or their authentication type, you can simply do that with the donut view. The donut view helps you to filter out IPs and monitor them based on the networking aspects. So now that we navigate, let's get into the subnet level management. How do we do that? With the summary tab, OpUtils gives you an overall summary of all the IPs that you're monitoring within a particular subnet. So right now you can see I have a total of 7,128 IPs. I have 2 reserved IPs, 30 subnets. I can see their utilization percentage. You can also do that. You can also filter out and see their statuses using this graph over here. You can filter them based on the DNS status, and you can also see the subnet utilization summary. So once you've seen that, if you want to go to subnet level details, clicking on subnet details tab allows you to do that. So it gives you data like your subnet address, its utilization, its scan status, its available IP addresses, the number of used, number of transient, and so on. Now, while monitoring, if you have made any changes with the subnets and you want to see how that it's being reflected, you can simply trigger a scan on demand with the scan option that is available against every subnets. Other than that, you can also set up periodic scan schedules, about which we'll be seeing later in our training today. And with that, we have the IP details tab. So what does IP details do? It helps you to monitor on an IP level. Like we've seen before, OpUtils allows you to monitor status such as available, transient, or used. Other than that, OpUtils also allows you to see the connected MAC address details, the IP to DNS resolution status, the DNS status, the connected switch, and connected port details. So these are some of the columns that are monitored by default in OpUtils. If you want to monitor more columns, you can simply add them with the add custom column option that is available to you. So once you add a custom column, even that field gets populated and you can add as many details as you want to your IP address manager. So as you can see, I have added a custom column 1, under which I have added certain details that I want to monitor about my IP addresses. With that, you can also filter out these IP level details. So you can filter IPs based on whether they're used, available, or transient, if they're scanned, how about the DNS scan status, if they're reserved, and if they're not reserved as well. So there are various criteria that you can scan your IPs and monitor them. If you have a particular IP in mind and that you have to know the details about them, you can use the search option that allows you to search for IPs in your IP address manager console. Now, what are the actions that you can carry out with your IP address manager? Well, OpUtils allows you to mark them as reserved or as not reserved. Say you have a particular IP in your network that you want to, you know, mark it as reserved and you have to allocate it statically to a critical network device. You can do that by selecting that IP and marking it as reserved. Once you've marked it as reserved, OpUtils allows you to monitor how that reserved IP is being used. In case if that reserved IP has been allocated, OpUtils raises an alert saying, hey, your reserved IP is being used by a device. You might have to check that alert. And in case if it is not a preferred device that is using your IP, you can revert the allocation and get going with your network as usual. So there are several actions as well that you can carry out with OpUtils IP address manager. And on monitoring, if anything goes wrong with your IP addresses, we have a set of alert criteria that you can set up. So once you set up, OpUtils monitors your IP address space for that alerts, and if it in case detects any issues, it raises the alerts under the alerts tab. So you can go to the alerts tab, see how what are the issues that has been raised with your IP address space. You can see the alert generated time, the alert type, and some description about what kind of alert has been generated. So with that, you can make sure that you can easily scan your IPs based on their hierarchies, which can be navigating through subnets or through networking aspect. You can easily track IPs, you can easily monitor their status, and you can also easily perform several actions that you want to on your IP addresses. So this is just a basic overview of what OpUtils IP address manager can do, but that's not everything that IP address manager can do. Because of the constraints of time, we are shifting through quickly. So if you want to know in detail how IP address manager works in your network, feel free to reach out to a panelist and set up a personalized live demo with them. So they can help you walk through the product in detail and show you how it can work with your network in a personalized live demo, which can be set up in your convenient time. So do feel free to reach out through a panelist through the chat panel. With that, let's move on to the next feature which we have is the DHCP server monitoring. So with OpUtils IP address manager, you can also monitor your DHCP servers. So as of now, it supports Windows, Cisco, Palo Alto, Linux, and Fortinet DHCP servers, with which it helps you to schedule DHCP scans, get all the details from DHCP server for in-depth network usage and scope information. So let me take you to the product and let's see how the DHCP server monitoring works. So I have discovered a DHCP server, which is a Microsoft DHCP server that I want to monitor. And clicking on that, it gives me a summary view of my DHCP server IP usage. So you can see the percentage of leased IPs, the percentage of reserved IPs, the percentage of available IPs for lease. You can also click on the scope details to monitor scope level information of your DHCP server. You can see the scope name, the number of IPs and their status. You can also see the scope address range details, such as the scope range, the excluded range, and if there are any related scopes, OpUtils displays that to you as well. You also have the IP address tab under the DHCP server monitoring, because you would want to monitor the IPs and their usage of these scopes. So it gives you a scope level view of all the different IPs that we have. And in this way, you can integrate your DHCP server monitoring with that of your IP address manager. So this gives you an easier option to monitor rather than shifting between different tools or different tabs to monitor your IPs and your DHCP server status. Let's move on to the next module, which is the switch port mapper. So what is switch port mapper and how does it help you? Well, OpUtils switch port mapper helps you to track your switches and ports in real time. You can say a big goodbye to all those huge network diagrams that you might be maintaining, and the legwork that you have to do to go find the switches and the ports that are inserted in their slots. So you can say a big goodbye to that, because with the switch port mapper, it automatically maps your switches to your ports. And not just that, it also helps you to understand how your port is being used. It gives you an insight into the different aspects of the port, such as if the port is truncated, if the port is connected to a virtual device, or if it is connected to multiple Macs. So even that is also possible. So to start using a switch port mapper, you need to discover your switches, which can be done by adding individual switch, or through a CSV file import, or through network discovery. So once you've added your switches, OpUtils allows you to start using its capabilities. So it gives you port availability management, through which you can monitor the availability of your ports. You can also view connected MAC and VLAN details. You can view the port view of a switch. You can group and you can navigate through the tree view for your switch ports. You can also administratively enable or disable ports. You can view the port status history as well. So let me take you to the console and let's see how it works. Under switch port mapper, as you can see, I have added 3 different switches that I want to monitor. So if you want to add them, you can simply discover them like we discussed before. And once you've discovered, OpUtils automatically starts monitoring your switches. So you can see the switch name, the IP address, the DNS name, the total number of port slots that are available, how many number of ports have been used, how many are available, how many are transient. You can also see the usage status, and you can also see the last scan time as well. If you want to trigger a scan, like with IP address manager, you can manually trigger them with the scan option that is available. And if you want to schedule scans for different switch ports, you can also do that as well. So to start monitoring your switches, clicking on a particular switch in your tree view, OpUtils helps you to monitor all the ports that are connected to a switch. You can also view the summary tab in case you want to have a quick look into how your switch is being used. Clicking on the ports tab, you can carry out port level switch port monitoring, because it gives you the interface index, interface name, port number, availability, status, connected MAC, IP details, and so on. So like we've said before, OpUtils allows you to monitor switches and ports based on their aspects. For example, if your port is being used with multiple MAC, OpUtils highlights that port in an yellow color code. If it is a stacked port, it is gray. If it has a virtual IP connected to it, it is color coded in an orange band as well. So not just that, if we say your port is stacked port, you can also click on the port detail to know all the MAC addresses that is connected to the port, their IPs, their DNS name, their device type, VLAN ID, and so on. So this way you can understand how your port is being utilized in your network. It gives you the port availability. It gives you the status of the port, if the port is running or if the port is down. It tells you what device is connected to the port. It also allows you to carry out certain actions such as administratively disabling interfaces in case you do not want a particular interface to be there. You can also enable interface, you can modify the alias name, and you can also centralizedly choose to manage or unmanage ports. So that is also possible with OpUtils. And if you want to add custom columns that you want to keep track of, you can do that as well with the add custom column option that is available. Now, in case you want to have a graphical representation of how ports is used in your network, the port view tab allows you to do that. As you can see, it gives me a view of how my switch port is, what are the ports are connected and into what slots they are connected. And hovering over them gives me details like the port number, interface index, the MAC address is connected, and the IP address is connected as well. So you can see that the port that I'm currently highlighting has multiple MACs connected to it. And you can also see that with the MAC address option, the MAC address field that is displayed for the port. So that is possible as well. And OpUtils also raises alerts in case anything goes wrong with your switch ports, and you can always check the alerts tab. And OpUtils also triggers these alerts to your email and to your log files in case you are away from your console. You can easily keep track of your alerts. So this way you can simplify switch port mapping and management with OpUtils. And it's just the basic overview. Like I said before, if you want to know in detail, feel free to set up a live demo at your convenient time. So let's move on to the next feature, which is rogue device detection. Rogue device detection is one of the interesting features in OpUtils because it helps you secure your network from unauthorized access. So it helps you detect unauthorized access of network resources and protect your network from intrusion. Because let's face it, with buyout policies, we never know which user is going to connect which device to our network. But we have to be aware of how the device is accessing our network and using our network resources. So to make sure you secure your network from unauthorized access, OpUtils gives you the rogue device detection module. This module scans your network and lists to you all the new devices that are connecting to your network. In case if you find any device connecting to your network to be suspicious or malicious or unauthorized, you can simply select the device and mark it as rogue. Also, if you are adding certain devices to your network, say you're adding 10 printers or 10 desktops to your network, you can import them, pass them through the rogue device detection module, mark them as trusted, and these devices can start using your network without any hurdles. So this way, you can set up a filter to monitor what devices are entering into your network and whether you allow them to access your network or not. So rogue device detection module comes in pretty handy and helps you to do this task with ease. So the features of the rogue device detection module is that it helps you detect unauthorized access of network resources, authorize new devices into your network, mark the device status as per your requirement, log rogue devices, and prevent network intrusion, identify ARP spoofing, import devices based on network discovery, Active Directory, and CSV file import, and it also allows you to run periodic scans to monitor your network health anytime. So let's go back to the console and let's see how rogue device detection module works. So as you can see, currently my OpUtils build has detected these many new devices that are trying to access my network. And in these devices, say that I trust the first device, which is and I also trust another device, I can simply select them, go to the actions, and mark as trusted. Now, say that my network is, for example, we are having a conference in our organization, and the attendees are going to bring their own devices. I'll have to allow them to access my network, but I can choose to allow them to access my network only for a week or till the conference is over. So for that, I'll give them the access as guest. So when I mark their devices as guest, OpUtils allows me to set up a validity period. So when you set up a validity period like a week or so, these devices can access your network as guest. In case if the validity period expires and the devices are continuing to access, OpUtils raises an alarm saying validity period has expired. So when you see that, you can choose to give these devices as trusted or as mark them as rogue and block them from accessing your network. So what is rogue? We've been telling that since the beginning. So how do you mark a device as rogue? So marking a device as rogue, meaning that these devices can be unauthorized or malicious. So once you mark these devices as rogues, OpUtils displays it to you under a category called rogues, and it helps you to, you know, take a list of devices that are unauthorized and are accessing your network, and you can block these devices and secure your network from any intrusion and reduce the security vector. So this way, it helps you to secure your network and avoid any unintended access to your network resources. Now, now that we've seen the first three modules, which is the IP address manager, switchport mapper, and rogue device detection, how about the tools? So OpUtils gives you the networking tools, which includes a bandwidth monitor, a config file manager, a network monitor, and a wake online tool. So with bandwidth monitor, you can monitor the real-time traffic utilization over an interface. So it helps you keep an eye on your network's bandwidth consumption. It also helps you configure threshold for maximum utilization. So in case if any of these interfaces face a traffic utilization that crosses your preferred threshold, OpUtils alerts you. And it also helps you create view utilization graphs with in and out traffic. So let me take you to the product and let's go to the bandwidth monitor tool. So under bandwidth monitor tool, you'll have to first discover your interfaces that you wish to monitor. So discovering interfaces is quite easy. You'll just have to specify the host name or the IP address, create or select the SNMP credential for the device, and clicking on Get Interfaces adds your interface and starts to monitor it. So as you can see, I have currently added 30 interfaces that I want to monitor. And of these, certain interfaces are up and certain interfaces are down. So if I want to monitor how the interfaces are performing, I can click on the interface that I wish to monitor, and I can see their in-out traffic data, which can be current, daily, monthly, or yearly. So clicking on that, it tells me how the interfaces are being used. It also tells me the out traffic over a period of time. I can see how the different out traffic has been varying. I can also see the traffic data. So it gives me the interface speed, the in traffic, the out traffic, and the last poll time. So this way I can keep track of how my interfaces are being used, what are the amount of traffic that are passing through these interfaces, and this allows me to keep an eye on my network's bandwidth consumption. I have set certain thresholds for these interfaces. In case if any of these thresholds are violated, OpUtils displays them to me as alarms under the alarms tab. So right now I have no critical issue or any warning, so I'm good to go, and this particular interface is doing its job pretty well. So this way, with the networking tools, you can keep track of your different interfaces. So what's the next networking tool? We have the config file manager. The config file manager by OpUtils helps you to monitor, collect the running and startup configuration backups. So this right now can be done for your Cisco devices alone. And it also helps you to maintain and compare the different configuration backups. And it also allows you to schedule configuration backups. So how do you use the configuration file manager? So under networking tools, we have the config file manager tool. To start using it, you'll have to add a Cisco device, which can be easily done by specifying the host name and its description and the SNMP credential. If you want to add more than one device, say you want to bulk import certain devices, that can be done with the import CSV file option. So once you've added the device to be monitored, as you can see, I have two devices that I want to monitor. And OpUtils helps me to view the startup configuration, the running configuration, and I can also choose to compare different configurations. So this way I can also choose to compare the different backups of a particular startup or running configuration. It tells me what are the, what has been added, what has been modified, and what has been deleted. This way it allows me to keep an eye and set up, a baseline of the configuration configuration changes. So this allows me to keep an eye on the different configuration files, view, compare, and take backups if needed. Now let's move on to the next tool, which is going to be a network monitor. So what is a network monitor and how important it is for your network? We all have certain critical devices in our network, and it is important that these critical devices are always available and they perform and they react or respond to certain polls. So this network monitor tool in OpUtils helps you to monitor the real-time availability of your critical devices. It also helps you to set up threshold for response time and alerts you in case of missed polls. So what is that? In case if you want to set up, say, a 3-second threshold for your poll response time. On polling your devices, if your devices do not respond within 3 seconds, OpUtils alerts you. In this way, you can avoid certain network mishaps like a device going down or a device being unavailable to the networking needs. So let's go to the console and see or have a look at the network monitor tool that we have at hand. So with the network monitor, you need to first add devices, which can easily be done. Like I've said before, you just have to specify the IP address name or host name, select the SNMP credential, and you can also bulk import it through the CSV file. So once you've imported them, you can see the status of your devices. You can also see different details like the last update time, the current response time, and the monitoring status for the device. So what is the monitoring interval? At what intervals does OpUtils polls and monitor the device? That can be set between 20 seconds to 60 minutes. So you can choose to poll a device between 20 seconds or 4 minutes or 12 minutes or 60 minutes. And OpUtils polls a device at that set interval, and it tells you if the device is doing perfectly good or if there is any issue with the device. So as you can see, if there is any issue, OpUtils alerts you through the alarms tab that we have. It tells you how the device has reacted to different polls at different times. It also, if there is any critical poll missed, it generates an alarm instantaneously. And it also tells you how the device has been performing in case there might be a slight threshold violation. So for example, instead of 3 seconds, the device has responded in 3.4 seconds. OpUtils allows you to do that, and it tells you how the device has responded. So this way you can keep an eye on your critical network devices. And that brings us to the next tool, which is Wake on LAN. So Wake on LAN has been around in the networking world for decades now. So with OpUtils Wake on LAN solution, you can ease the use of the Wake on LAN technology in your network, because it helps you to both manually or automatically wake up devices with schedules, and it gives you the ability to scan systems across VLANs. So you can wake up a particular device on demand, or you can select and wake up a group of devices on demand, or you can even set up group Wake on LAN routines that allows you to automatically wake up a particular device group at the set intervals. So this tool eases the use of Wake on LAN technology in your network, and it automates most of the manual tasks that you have to do when it comes to using the Wake on LAN technology. So let's move on to the OpUtils toolset. Other than the set tools before, which mainly focus on monitoring your network resources, OpUtils gives you a separate set of toolset uh, which contains 20 and more network utility tools. So what do these tools do? Well, these tools help you to run or carry out day-to-day networking tasks with ease. It has, helps you to troubleshoot your day-to-day network problems. These are easy to access and are completely useful. So all of these tools are clubbed within your single console. So you have a centralized view of these tools. You can trigger any of these tools at ease, and you do not have to switch between tabs when you have to use this tool. It also helps you to save time in analyzing network issues. So what are the different tools we have? With OpUtils, under the Toolset tab, you can see that we have a ping tools, a set of address monitoring tools, network monitoring tools, SNMP tools, Cisco tools, and a bunch of other tools that are required for day-to-day network monitoring. So even under ping tools, we have tools like proxy ping, SNMP ping, and traceroute that gives you a complete understanding of all the devices and their relationship in your network. You can also use the address monitoring tools like DNS Resolver and MAC Address Resolver to understand how your address is being used and if they are, if they can be resolved and authenticated. Tools like MAC IP list come in pretty handy when you want to when you want to quickly find an IP's associated MAC, because it lists to you all the IPs and their associated MAC in a network, and you do not have to run individual scans. And then we have the network monitoring tools, which includes network scanner and especially port scanner, because it helps you to identify all the services that are running in your ports and block ports centralized from your console. We also have System Explorer and TCP Reset System Details Update, which allows you to remotely update system details in your network. We then have SNMP tools, which allows you to carry out SNMP operations or perform basic SNMP related actions like with the MIB browser, SNMP graph, community checker, and MIB node or module viewer. Then we have the Cisco tools, which are a couple of tools that are specifically for the Cisco devices in your network. So with the device scan and device explorer, you can have a pretty comprehensive and detailed snapshot of your Cisco devices. This helps you to understand and monitor or even diagnose any issues with your Cisco tools or devices. We then have a bunch of other tools like WMI query, CLI query tool, forward trap, forward syslog, and syslog viewer tools that come in pretty handy when you have to carry out certain routine network monitoring activities. So that brings us to the end of the network tools. So since this is a very short free training, I'm giving you just a basic overview. If you want to know in detail, like I've said before, you can set up a free personalized demo from one of our tech experts. Now, moving on to the capabilities offered by OpUtils, let's begin with the scheduling and notification capabilities that are offered. So you can schedule your scans with OpUtils. So one of the monotonous network tasks that comes with monitoring network resources is scanning your networks at periodic time. The hassle here is that you might have to manually intervene and trigger and update any scan that you want to carry out. But with OpUtils, you can automate this entire process, because once you set up a schedule, OpUtils automatically updates your IP address and switch port statuses, and you do not have to intervene in it, because when you set up a schedule, it automatically triggers scans at the set periodic intervals. You can also periodically check your network and detect rogue devices, scan your routers for MAC IP relation, and the most important part is that you can set up schedules at your own convenience. These schedules are highly customizable, so you can set up it every minute or every hour or daily, weekly, monthly, or just once. So let me take you to the console and let's just have a quick look into how you can set up schedules. Let's say you want to set up a schedule for your IP address manager or a switchport mapper. Clicking on the scheduler option, it gives you a different schedules that you can set up. For example, with your routers or with your Active Directory or with the IPs under your IP address manager. As you can see, for now, I've set up two schedules, one for my IPv4 addresses and one for my IPv6 addresses. You can do that simply by clicking on Add Task, give a task name, select the subnets that you want to scan, and you can also set the intervals at which you want the scans to be conducted automatically. So like I said before, it can be customized as per your need. And once you click Save, OpUtils automatically scans your networks at the specified periodic intervals. You can also do that for switchport mapper or your DHCP servers, your configuration files, and even for the devices that are under your WEC on LAN tool. So this way you can schedule your scans with ease. And the next capability is that OpUtils alerts you in case if there is anything wrong with your network, because what good is a network monitoring tool if it cannot alert you of issues? So OpUtils does that pretty well, because it already gives you a predefined scenarios. So it gives you a bunch of scenarios which might indicate a potential network issues. So if you want to be alerted on these scenarios, you can simply click on the particular scenario. So it's just one click enable, and OpUtils starts monitoring your resources for a particular scenario that might portray a network issue. And these alerts are sent to you through email and syslog based alerting. And it also allows threshold based alerting. And these alerts are also applicable for rogue detection and its related scenarios. So how do you set up an alert with OpUtils? So under settings tab, we have the configure alerts option. So once you click on that, you can see that I have a bunch of scenarios under the IP address manager, which might portray a particular, which might mean that there's a particular network issue in my network resources. For example, I have the IP address conflict scenario. So if I click on enable, OpUtils monitors when my IP addresses for IP address conflicts. So if there is any IP address conflict, it instantly sends me a message. It triggers an alarm, which can be displayed in your console, and it can also be sent to your email or syslog as per your preference. And this alert gives you a description of what is the nature of the alert and what resources has faced the alert. So all you have to do is click on this particular option, and you are notified by the alerts. Like I've said before, it also helps you to set up alerts based on thresholds. So we have that under IP address manager, we have that for subnets. So if you want to monitor your subnets for a particular utilization, you can set up their thresholds as per your need. So once you set up thresholds, in case there is any threshold violation, you are alerted of that particular violation, and you can have a quick look into it, fix it before it causes a major network error. With that, let's move on to the next capability, which is the reports. OpUtils gives you a bunch of network reports on your IP addresses and switch ports that are being monitored. So this helps you, to stay ahead of your network resource and effectively plan your capacity planning activities. So it gives you a predefined wide range of reports for each module. These reports give you a detailed information on what they're collecting or logging. It also gives you an easy scheduling option, so you can schedule reports to be sent to your email at whatever period of time you want them to be. It gives you complete customization on schedules, and it also gives you a quick view into how your network or how OpUtils is being used with the audit report options. So let's go to the console and let's just see how many reports we have at hand. So OpUtils gives you different reports for different modules, and under IP address manager, I have reports like reports for unused IP address, reports to monitor the received static IP addresses, IP usage summary, OS type reports. I also have reports for DHCP servers, and I can quickly navigate through these reports through the console itself. I can download them as PDF or CSV files. In case I want these reports to be collected and scheduled and sent to me, I can do that with the scheduled reports option. So clicking on the scheduled report option, it allows me to set up a schedule for what reports I want to be sent to me, and I can choose between the IP address manager module reports or the switchport mapper module reports as well. Once I set up a schedule, these reports are sent to me to my email that I can specify. So you can choose to specify more than one email if you want them to, and you can also set up more than one schedule if you want different reports to be sent to you at different time or to different administrators. So that's the reporting functionality that we have available with OpUtils, and all of these things we've seen thus far, like be it your IPAM, SPM module, your rogue device detection module, or your reporting capability. All of this can be done with from your workspace on your work setup. Now, how about you're leaving your desk and you want to monitor this on the move? For that, OpUtils brings to you the mobile apps. So OpUtils mobile app is available both for your iOS and Android devices. So once you download this mobile app, configure it to work with your on-premise setup, you can monitor how your network resources are being utilized on the go. So you do not have to be stuck with your console every time. You can simply do that with the OpUtils mobile app. So if you want to know more about how to use this mobile app, check out the link that is given at the bottom of this presentation, and you can know more on how to use it. That brings us to the end of today's free training. Let's have a quick recap on what we've seen thus far. So what do you get out of OpUtils? So how does OpUtils help you? For once, you can say a big goodbye to the spreadsheets and the intense efforts that comes to monitoring your network resources. One, it gives you better real-time IP address management. The best part is that it removes most of the manual tasks that needs to be done when it comes to managing IP addresses. It gives you advanced IP address scanning. It allows you to track IP addresses in real time, allows you to monitor them for their availability and utilization. It also allows you to reserve IP addresses, and it triggers instantaneous alarms in case there are any issues with your IP address space, such as your IP address conflicts. So this way, you do not have to have a spreadsheet or a tool that you have to go constantly update or configure to effectively manage your IP address. So OpUtils gives you a better real-time IP address management. It also helps you to manage your ports in real time. So you can say a big goodbye to those bunch of diagrams that you have that you're continuously updating, because with OpUtils switch port mapper, you can automatically track and enable the view into end-to-end network switch port connections. It gives you a graphical representation of which port is connected to which switch. It also helps you to monitor the port aspects, like if the port is truncated, stacked, connected to multiple MACs, or is using a virtual device. It also allows you to view the port status if it is up or down, and it also allows you to view the connected device details. So it gives you a holistic view into your switch ports, and it helps you manage ports in real time. Next, it helps you protect your network from intrusion. With the rogue device detection module, you can easily find all the devices, new devices that are connecting to your network. You can mark them as trusted guest or rogue based on their authorization. So in case if you find any malicious device, these devices can be blocked from using a network when you mark them as rogue. So this way, you can protect your network from unauthorized access. Then you can schedule scans and save manual efforts. You can easily set up scans with OpUtils, and once you set up, OpUtils automatically scans your network at the periodic intervals. So this way, you do not have to manually intervene in case you want to run a scan. You can also trigger on-demand scans with just a click with the OpUtils console. And then with the network tools, it allows you to monitor the bandwidth, availability, and maintain backups. So you can have a quick look into your bandwidth consumption, view the availability of critical network devices, and compare, and maintain backups of your Cisco files. So this way, it also gives you the Wake on LAN tool, which helps you to remotely boot and monitor the status of your network devices. We have instant notifications with OpUtils. So on monitoring all the above said resources, in case if there is any issue or a potential network error, OpUtils automatically alerts you through the instant notifications that can be sent over through email or syslog files. We then have reports for audit and historic reference. So with the different reports that are available with OpUtils, you can see how your resources have been utilized over a period of time. You can find the trends, and you can also carry out capacity planning with ease with the different reports. We also have the audit report, which tells you how your OpUtils tool has been used and who has been performing certain actions.